with my people. I know everyone. Africans, we should be in charge of every narrative coming out of Africa. We have a lot of positive stories to tell and share with the world, and I'm determined to use my platform to make that a reality. This is why I've teamed up with the Fata Network to bring you a brand new show, Stories from the Continent, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Do make sure you join us. There will be lots of fun, informative, and impactful conversation. Hello everyone, and welcome to Stories from the Continent. My name is Haddy. I'm so delighted for today's episode. We have a very influential young author, Momar Njai, joining us from the US. I always get excited about African authors and just this prospect of writing and kind of portraying the true image of Africa. I think for too long, many of us have looked at this vast continent as one of victimhood and dependency. History has been underreported, misreported, misrepresented time and time again. So we'll spend some time today with Momar discussing his journey into writing and investing in the continent. And I'm also keen to get his perspective on irregular migration in the continent as someone who has lived and documented the immigrant experience. So Momar, welcome and thank you for joining us.
And for inviting me to the show. Really looking forward to our conversation and of course to connecting with your viewers.
So Momar, we'll talk about the book in a moment, but before that, I'd like us to start with your story. You tell us that you moved to America in '94 following the military coup in the Gambia, but what were the exact circumstances surrounding your exile?
Yeah, so as most of you may be aware, there was a coup that happened in ¡94 where the army took over the government. Just to give a little bit of backstory, came from a pretty well-respected family in Gambia, the Njai family. We did well. My dad was a developer and things like that. So we did pretty well, but after the coup, the family businesses collapsed and I ended up having to leave the US. It took about 3 years actually, so I didn't get here until '97, so 3 years after the coup. So I went from this kid that, went to Marina High and had all the luxuries of life, if you will, the prince life, as some may call it, to having to leave unexpectedly and come to the US with nothing. So I came with $50 in my pocket. And even though I had visited the US a few times, coming here as a new immigrant, basically, under very difficult circumstances, it was really hard to figure out. It took me some time to really adjust to the new life. And didn't really have any money or friends and stuff, so it took a really, really long time to kind of get my footing and find myself as far as just being able to adjust to a new life. It was very, very difficult, quite frankly, because we had a lot of stuff taken care of for us as kids. We had the drivers, we had the usual stuff that most people in middle class, I'm sure you can probably relate to this a little bit, had, and everything was taken care of. So here I was in New York. A young kid with no friends, no family, and having to figure stuff out, and really didn't really know how to do much, quite frankly. And what I thought had defined me as a person was the family that I came from in Gambia, what we had and stuff like that. But once everything was stripped away from us, it really took me some time to figure out who I really truly was. So I went from a young privileged kid to being, an undocumented immigrant in the US for quite a while. So basically, it took me some time to really figure out who I was as a person. And in a nutshell, that's kind of my very, very short, summary of my journey. It was very, very difficult, I must say, to be able to adjust to a new life of, privilege in Gambia and then coming to the US where no one really knows and no one really cares who you are, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And just this journey of self-discovery of what really made me. And I've had, a lot of success along the way, a lot of obstacles and challenges I've had to overcome. But ultimately, I ended up, having a very successful career here in Silicon Valley, which is where I'm based. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very grateful for being able to, get to where I am right now, in part because I've had a lot of help, a lot of blessings along the way. So yeah, privileged to be here and kind of share my story.
Thank you, Momar. So this success that you have achieved and you have reached this level that you're on now is also what I'm interested in. You know, how were you able to kind of turn moving into a foreign country, like you said, undocumented, you know, with very little support, to being a successful author, an investor, and just an inspiration to so many?
Thank you so much. It took a lot of work, quite frankly. One of the key turning points for me was getting an education, quite frankly. And that was one of the key metrics I tell people is like, you know, education is really key as an equalizer to kind of help guide you to the next step and take you to the next level. I started off working at a lot of odd jobs. I did, you know, bartending. Worked as a waiter. I worked at a gas station night shift and all the usual odd jobs that you can think of. I did all that stuff. And then I kind of looked around me, right? And people that were working in these industries, I realized that I didn't want to do that forever. And what was the thing that I needed to do to really try to, you know, put myself in a situation where I could be successful in the future and kind of build a career? And one of the key things was education. So it took some time, as you can imagine. I was not able to go to school or get an education in part because I really was not documented in the US, right? So I couldn't go to school without any paperwork. So it took some really long time to try to get that. But slowly over time, when I got that stuff together, I began to go to school. So it was pretty rough initially at first, you know, spent a lot of hours studying and stuff. But one of the key turning points for me was education. So I started going to school right around the time that the computer revolution began. So I kind of was very conscious of the fact that technology was like the way to go and that everyone was kind of going on board with computers. So I started going to school for computer science. So slowly my career began to start. I did tech support. This is back when people were first getting computers at home and getting on the internet and things like that. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit, but that's where I started. And slowly over time, that, you know, determination, that hard work really paid off, and the education was really critical to help me as far as being able to have some success over here. So I tell the youth, I tell the kids these days that, you know, it doesn't matter what you do. What's really different as far as the equalizer or one step for you to move forward is really getting a good education. That's what I did. And that was one of many things, right? I feel like another piece of it too was growing up in Gambia and being exposed to this culture of respect and values and integrity and taking care of the elderly and so many other things that I feel like I learned back home, which I otherwise wouldn't have gotten somewhere else. That was also a huge part of my success, just being honest, you know, having integrity. And people kind of saw that. I feel like they could see that in me, even when I didn't have all the paperwork, even when I didn't have all the credentials and stuff. I saw this, I didn't get it quite yet, but I was determined to really try to succeed and prove myself. And people gave me opportunities, and over time, more and more opportunities came my way, and that's how I ended up, you know, having some success and ending up in Silicon Valley.
Thank you, Momar. And I also want to know why it was so important for you to tell your story and share your story, because you know, I'm thinking a lot of people have kind of gone through the same path and the same, or similar at least, you know, where they've migrated from the Gambia to the Western world and, you know, face similar challenges. But what propelled you into telling your story?
Yeah, it was really important to tell this story. And I had some time to do some reflection a couple of years ago about my own journey and how far I had come. And what I said to myself is, I wonder how many other people or how many other youth are out there that are also experiencing something similar, that have maybe gone through either something similar to my journey, or that may be thinking about it, or maybe thinking about going through this journey in terms of, you know, migrating over to the US or some other countries, right? What is it that they could learn from my own journey? So it was really important for me to put it out there just to make sure that my story was also told, but I also try to incorporate the stories of others as well. And ultimately, my goal was to try to help educate and bring social awareness of certain things like immigration, or living in the US as an immigrant or undocumented immigrant, or just the immigrant experience as a whole, right? It was important for me to tell it out there because I knew I couldn't have been the only one that went through this, right? That there are others of us that are going through a similar journey. Absolutely. And it was my responsibility to kind of put this story really out there. That's one reason. And the other piece of it too is I didn't feel like there was enough stories out there that really captured us, our experiences as immigrants, you know, our experience as immigrants as Africans and so on, right? There's a few here and there, but I felt like it wasn't really truly coming from our own specific unique experiences. So it was important for me to really put it out there and hopefully inspire hope an inspiration to the youth out there that may be thinking about, migrating over, or that are not really sure about what the journey is, and just wanted to put a story out there. Hopefully, quite frankly, it was very moving to get a lot of feedback from people that read the story and kind of find themselves in that, because we really don't often see or hear of our own stories just like the way that it was captured in the book. So it was important for me to put it out there. At a risk, obviously, there's a lot of things in there that are pretty controversial, obviously, as you can imagine. But for me, the most important thing was that this wasn't really about me, but basically capturing and humanizing the immigrant experience. And if I got a little bit of pushback, or if I did spark some controversy, but the most important thing, which is putting the story out there, it was really worth it for me. It's just like,
Hi everyone, my name is Haddy and I'm a journalist and communications specialist. I believe that as Africans, we should be in charge of every narrative coming out of Africa. We have a lot of positive stories to tell and share with the world, and I'm determined to use my platform to make that a reality. This is why I've teamed up with the Fata Network to bring you a brand new show, Stories from the Continent, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Do make sure you join us. There will be lots of fun, informative, and impactful conversation. Hi everyone, my name is Haddy and I'm a journalist and communications specialist. I believe that as Africans, we should be in charge of every narrative coming out of Africa. We have a lot of positive stories to tell and share with the world, and I'm determined to use my platform to make that a reality. This is why I've teamed up with the Fata Network to bring you a brand new show, Stories from the Continent, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Do make sure you join us. There will be lots of fun, informative, and impactful conversation. Hi everyone.